I am the president-elect of this global organization, and I was a student here. I graduated in '96 with a textile chemistry degree, dyeing and finishing major, or concentration as it was then. And reason I graduated in '96 was because in '95, when I was done, my professor came to me and says, but you don't have any gym classes. You like that? So we're responsible for our own stuff, right? So I took 3 gym classes that summer, didn't graduate because I was a transfer and I had no idea, you know, that somebody would have to go to university and actually go to gym for grades. And yet that is actually true, isn't it? Right? Is it still true? You have to like swim and like, run. And so that was pretty interesting. I worked at the Starbucks that was on the main drive over there. I don't even remember it anymore. And that was a pretty wild summer. But I graduated in the year where we still had 40 interviews with dye houses on campus, right? So I had like 40 interviews. In the 40th, I cut my hair, right? Literally, 39 told me, if you just cut your hair, we'll hire you. I did. So it was like Braveheart, you know, it was like mid-90s. It was bad, but it was there. And so I did cut my hair, and you know, there are just things you have to do. We have responsibilities, right? As students, we're told that all the time. And one of the things I just wanted to mention was that when you're in an organization like this, it really is up to you how much you make of it. You know, people that are professionals like myself who graduated from here are more than happy to come here and speak in front of y'all. Now that you know me, you know, I can help you find speakers, that type of thing, right? If that's of interest, people who like live in New York and work in jobs that people want to take. And that's one of the things we like to do. My personal thing is I like to mentor students in helping them understand what they want to do, knowing where the jobs are, right? So in America, we all know a lot of manufacturing jobs did leave, although 12% of the world's textiles are still made here. So it's not that there's not being done, it's just they're just different. And so there are a lot of jobs in New York City. There's a lot of jobs in California, right? In a whole other country called Canada, there are jobs, right? It's a whole other country. So, those jobs just kind of need a little bit of help to get to sometimes, right? It's hard to imagine when you're sitting here studying technology or something of that nature. I don't think there are any design majors here, is that correct? So go make friends with your design colleagues and bring them. This is of great interest to them too. They just don't know it yet. So that's what I do in the Texas section. So in the Texas section, I found out that Baylor University, University of Texas at Austin, Texas Christian University, Texas Women's, University of North Texas, they all have textile programs, all of them. They just call them different things like merchandising or design and product development, apparel, you know, human ecology school has these things underneath. And so it's been fun for me to connect with them. Many of them are designers, but they're also very interested in the technical side of life, right? And just like they are moving towards technical and it helped them get jobs, you also need to move towards the creative side of this job. That's what's here in this continent are creative jobs. And they need people who can translate for a designer things like, well, you know, it would be great if you can make all the colors on this fabric, but you know what? It's really hard to make a wash-fast neon cotton, right? Or something like that. Some basic information that you will take for granted is worth like having a job at a brand or retailer. You know, they value that kind of thing. You save people money, you save time. So it's good to get to know the designers that are here. It's good to see what they're doing as well. Inviting them here would be good because the designers had the same question. Well, we're not NC State. We don't have all the stuff they have, right? They would say, but man, 55 kids come to those meetings that I'm in. They're all active. They're all involved. And the passion to work and love what you do is really part of why everyone, I think, is here. I think, right? You know, those people who participate in networking activities in your profession, it just helps you beyond what I can explain, right? It really helps you. So to be kind to others is a big part of what happens at AATCC. We just are. We're just, you know, you have to be friendly in a science that's such an art, right? So that it's very odd that textiles has such a, let me explain it, the difference between textile chemistry and like engineering, unless everyone here knows the difference. But when you hire a plumber in your house, and you're an engineer, the plumber comes in, you say, that's the one right there, you gotta go and fix that. The engineer goes over and watches, and the guy's working, right, and he's like, I can do this, right? Engineer's watching, he's maybe even taking notes and asking, hey, so what kind of flange is that, you know, something like that. And they're like, next time he's taking the toilet apart himself, right, or she, and that's the engineer, right? They like, there's a problem, we solve it. The textile chemist, you know, the plumber comes in the house, he said, this is the toilet over here, I'll be back in the kitchen baking, okay? I'll be done in a minute. So, you know, we just like to cook, right? I don't know how many people here are cooks, but I like to cook because it's basically what I do at work, right? We just change the ingredients a little bit and, oh, it still works, you know, or something like that. So we're a little different. Textile people are a little different. We are so different that we have a name that's called AATCC. It's so long we can't even say it, right? Because we're so different, we can't even come up with like one word. So when you can't explain what you do to your neighbor, that's when you know you're part of AATCC. The best I have is we're textile professionals. That's what I tell I'm a textile professional. Oh, and that's usually enough, right? I mean, how many people know anything about textiles? So that's that little thing. Now, AATCC, as far as the test methods, right? So I personally think it's a social thing. I really do. I think it's a networking thing. And there's always been a stream of interest on both sides in AATCC is to have the technical committee meetings and the technical test methods is very important, but the networking is a big part too. And that's a part that I have a passion for. But an example, in my current job, I work for Ascend Performance Materials. We make 25% of the world's nylon 6/6. Does anybody know the difference between 6 and 6/6? All right. It's like the first ever. It has 2 6s because it's better. That's a good enough explanation for the rest of your life. So I'm telling you, 6/6 is a better yarn. So nonetheless, there's a yarn that Ascend has been making for many years. It was invented for carpet. It's an anti-static bi-component yarn. And it keeps you from shocking yourself when you walk across the floor. And it's also in military clothes and coveralls and things like Glen Raven. Companies like that make uniforms for people, and they put these anti-static materials in. So I was hired to come up with new ways to use this yarn. And someday, y'all in this room will also get a job where they say, this is a product and y'all know about textiles, right? And you'll say, yeah, and you're the only one in the whole company, so why don't you come here and do this, right? And so that's what happens, and you're going to have a great skill that not a lot of people have. So I was told, find a new way to use this yarn. And what happened eventually was that I discovered that when you put this yarn into clothing, it makes it hair repellent and dust repellent and lint repellent. So like cat hair or dog hair, you can have it on your shirt or your pants and just go like this and it basically falls off. Or you can put a quarter zip that's got hair on it into a dryer, just run it until the fibers are dry and everything comes off. And it comes out clean. That's dry cleaning. You get it? Dry cleaning. Finally, I came up with something. All right, so nonetheless, so guess what though, when you discover this and you say, okay, now there's no hair on this. My goodness, this is like a miracle, right? It really is. It's just like a little bit of yarn, like a few grams, 1 gram in a piece of fabric, and you have this property. Now, how are you going to prove it, right? So that's what this is, right? How are you going to prove it? And so I've spent the last 1.5 years with somebody in the lab, and he was an intern, by the way, so jobs are important, and now he works for us. So how do you prove that there's no hair on this afterwards. So that's now going to be a test method that's the patent that I filed. That's how important test methods are. I didn't patent all the application and everything. I patented the test method. So we're the only people that are going to be able to tell people, the world, that yeah, these pants will have less lint and things like that on them. So, and then the next steps are to figure out how to make an actual test method at AATCC, and there's a process for that, and nice people tell us how to do that, because I never remember any of those rules, but that's why we have rules and people that help with those things. So if you can see how that kind of matters, right? And so that test method book we have is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So since 1922, when they started, you know, when they just had a few, I was just downstairs in Jeff's lab. The 1932 technical manual is down there. I opened it up and it has... Right? There's a few in there, yeah. But there's every year down there. And so 1932, it had... you know, there weren't as many test methods because we didn't have all sorts of things like dry cleaning test methods and that kind of thing. So hopefully someday there'll be a, you know, hair repellent test method, right? And that's how that works, right? So does everybody understand how that test method thing is important? You make money proving stuff, and that's going to give you your jobs. And that's how, you know, when you connect with people, you know, how do I figure this out? AATCC is a group of people that if you don't know it, you know, somebody that you know will know it. And so that's worth the effort. And $35 a year, that's 9.5 cents a day. I don't want to hear it at all from anyone. 35 bucks. You guys spend that on the weekend, right? At one of these, you go play golf or something, or I don't know. What costs $35, right? Top Golf. That's like 60 bucks, right? Anyways, so 35 bucks and you get into this network. And by the way, when you graduate, it doesn't cost the 100 bucks or 125 for a professional. You get like a year grace period. Do we have 2 years or 1 year? Which one? 2 years. All right, so that's good. And you don't get that grace period if you're not a member as a senior? Correct. That would be a good idea if it's not, right? So as a senior, it's a great idea to jump into that. So normally your businesses that you work for would pay for it, but if not, then it's worth doing anyway. So I just thought I'd say those things out loud. Does anybody have any questions for me in general? I have a bunch of business cards here. I will give out as many until they're gone, and you're free to call if you'd like, email me. I do offer in front of every group of students I talk to mentor someone on the phone 30 minutes with your resume and go through that if you want. I can say this in front of all these people because 2% only say yes to that offer. So I've talked to the 600 people, and about that number, UT Austin is definitely the winner on this one. They had like 10 people over the last 3 years. But I do offer that to help you, and then if things work out, then you know you write a cover letter, and then you know hopefully you can get recommended to a job if it fits your background. That I know the people that I can help you with. So there you go. So Greenville, South Carolina is the next international conference. Those are literally free for you if you just show up. And everyone's there, right? It's maybe not like thousands and thousands of people, but you know, Lululemon is there, PVH, Macy's, Walmart, Target, North Face, you know, the list goes on. I don't mean to leave anyone out. Under Armour is probably there. All those folks are there. If you're there, I would love to introduce you to people. If you'd like, I want to live in Baltimore. Here's the Under Armour person, right? Or maybe there's a technical reason for it too, but either way, you get my point. That's just down the road, right? So start planning now to get a hotel room with friends, split the rate, I don't know. Do what you need to do, get an Airbnb, 20 people can go into that thing. It can happen. All you have to do is drive, right? So the one last year was in Fort Worth, Texas, which was great because I live in Waco, Texas. And but this year it's within driving distance of y'all, and you really are leaders in the industry. People look at you as leaders, by the way, in case you didn't realize that. So you are, and it's time to if you act that way, believe me, the response will be positive. Okay, so thank you. All right.